So, we start off tonight with the dinner party from Trandy Trandy, in which case this couple comes to a dinner party. The husband is he's a playwright, and he wants to meet these influential people. Maybe they'll get his play a bit more money, he can do more.
He's a bit of an asshole too.
He is
He's
indeed.
not just a playwright.
Yeah,
He's also a full-time asshole.
yes, he is. His wife, who has a bit of a shaky background, she had some troubling times as a child. Is sort of hesitant about this whole thing. They don't really know the people who invited them, but hey, when rich people invite you over to eat dinner with them, you have to go. So they went and things happen, and that's pretty much it. This is a movie I had never really heard about until I was going through and trying to decide which movies from Trandy I sort of wanted to see. And it sounded potentially interesting. It had like an okay rating on IMDb. It has at least over a 5. So I thought, hey, this might be okay. And I watched it, and it seems to me a very meandering movie. It takes a little while to get going. Like you listen to these rich people talk about plays and like operas and like all these fancy Italian pretentious pieces of shit. Like there's no way the common working guy can relate to any of this.
Yeah.
Like it was sort of interesting, but at the same time it's I'm like, what the hell am I listening to? So it's interesting, but it's also like almost a 2-hour movie. I think the movie's like an hour and 49 minutes, and then it's like 5 minutes of credits.
Yeah. Well, we were talking before the show, and you were, thinking you didn't expect RoboCop 2, which we're talking about later in the show. You didn't expect that to be 2 hours, and you thought, hey, it might be 80 minutes. Well, I tell you, this movie deserves to be 80 minutes.
Oh yeah, if not even shorter. And they certainly they do some things that are sort of interesting. At least I think they try, but there's a lot of things that go on in this movie past a certain point that I just don't much care for, like the route they went. I don't know, I feel like it maybe could have been done in a better way. Because it's not like the movie's particularly cheap looking. It has an okay production behind it, but it's just way too meandering and slow. And when things actually pick up, I don't really think the route they went was particularly great.
Well, it's funny. A lot of the points that you just made are exactly what I've written down here.
We are basically the same people.
Yeah, like I've mentioned the movie being 2 hours long, which is ridiculous because it takes pretty much a whole hour for anything interesting to actually happen. It's just talking, and like you said, they're talking about shit that the regular person probably has no interest in. It's a dinner party for posh, artsy folk, the type that sip wine and drink macchiatos and shit like that. I had a macchiato once and it was terrible.
So out of interest, what's your favorite play?
I don't even know any plays. Just
Yeah.
throw out anything.
Like when each of them were going and talking about like their favorite operas and arguing about them, like, who are these people? Like,
The worst play I've ever seen is probably also the best play I've ever seen. But characters are written as quirky, but they're just obnoxious douchebags, really. I mean, they're the type of people I would never want to have a conversation with. I was just hoping, like, throughout, or at least during all the boring parts of the movie, which is essentially the first hour, there's a few women in the movie, and one in particular, Sadie, who I'm thinking, come on, spice it up, get those titties out or something, please. And later she does, but unfortunately, one of my pet peeves with nudity is people having tattoos on their titties. Why did they have to do that? That just ruined that part of the movie for me. That's the one thing that was potentially going to not save the movie, but at least, maybe notch it up a rating for me. And they ruined it.
at least you got the black actress's nudity near the beginning, so.
She wasn't my type. But, and I assume that tattoo is fake. I assume the real actress does not have that tattoo, so, if it was any other movie she was in, probably would have been fine. But yeah, one of the other things that you mentioned, production value, that's another point I had. It actually looks like a good movie, like if you're just looking at it. You know, you can see it's a pretty professionally made movie. It's not like all these random people who have never made a movie before got together and tried to make something. So it's just a boring ass movie for the most part. Now the second half, yes, you know, things pick up. There's a lot of stuff going on. The second half isn't great, but at least it's, you know, watchable. There's something to see. But yeah, because it took so long to get to that, I think that first hour really tainted a lot of the stuff that happens in the second half.
So have you ever engaged in sexual relations with a corpse before?
No.
I was wondering if you're thinking about it or just... Okay. And
Well, I got blasted recently online for a comment I made. Who was it? Is Tanya Roberts? She had died. You know, there's one movie discussion group on Facebook that I was in, or I was still in it, but you know, they did a post where they showed a bunch of pictures of her from movies, and you know, she was an actress who was really sexualized a lot in her movies because, you know, she's a good-looking woman with good figure and things like that. And so, you know, I made a comment about her figure, and then, you know, I had a couple of people jump on me for it, and I was like, hey, it's a compliment. And they're like, oh, you want to fuck a corpse or something? I'm like, Jesus Christ, they're talking about me and how my brain works. Like, why would you talk about how good looking she is when she's just died? And now you're the ones talking about me fucking a corpse. I mean, I think there's something more wrong with how your brain is working than how mine is working. But anyways, yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up just because it was to do with banging corpses, I guess.
Indeed, and speaking of other taboos that you may or may not want to engage in, you probably shouldn't. I've seen this movie, the little I knew about it, I've heard this movie called like a quote-unquote cannibal movie, which, yeah, cannibalism comes up for like maybe a minute and a half, and that's pretty much it. Like, there's a scene in which there's a few people engaged in such actions, but it's like extraordinarily tame to the point of it doesn't really, I don't know, to me it doesn't really have much of an impact. I didn't care at that point, because like Chucky said, it takes so long to get there that even once things start happening, like, you're so out of it that it's really hard to pull you back in. So even once things got a little more interesting, it just, like, it really is a thing too little too late.
Yeah. Because there's so much talking for that first hour, I mean, you really need some strong characters if you really want to pull off, like, that type of movie. And unfortunately, most of the characters in this movie are just either annoying or just unbearable with their personalities. It's just, yeah. I mean, outside of maybe Sadie and the lead actress, who sort of, you know, sort of watchable, everyone else in the movie just really pissed me off. I mean, at least, you know, spoiler alert, probably the two best characters in the movie. Best is a strong word. just not the worst characters in the movie. They're the ones who actually end up surviving.
Yeah, and I feel like another issue is, like, this, like, all these characters, but I feel like we never, even with the movie longer and focusing primarily on conversation, we never really learn a lot about why they do this. I guess it's maybe quote-unquote some hints thrown in. And one, like, these rich people like Sophie Tracy, others, I don't know why, honestly, I have no idea. She seemed like she was into it, and then boom, betrayal, like, I don't know why. So, I don't know, I feel like it's not enough actual character depth here. Like, they can talk about, like, these fancy plays and operas as much as they want, but I don't know who these people are.
Yeah. I wouldn't expect much from whoever made this movie, because they thought they were writing these quirky, artsy type scenes, and they probably think, oh yeah, let's give it an ending that has everyone guessing, and it just ends up being, what the fuck, you know, why the fuck were they doing all this shit? And we don't know, and we don't really care, to be honest.
That's true. And I also wanted to mention, it's possible that the the main cop in the movie, the guy is a bit of a dick. How do you feel about him?
Yeah, he's a dick. I mean, I was glad to see him get shot in the head.
You know, I sort of like him making the his wife, hey, you should promise the king. like who is this guy? So yeah, the dinner party is a movie I didn't know that much about going into. After seeing it, I'm like really surprised it has over a 5 on IMDb, and it's not like it's only like 60, 70 people. It's like almost 3,000 people rated this, and it's over a 5.6 right now. So I don't know. I guess maybe it's a situation that I'm just not seeing what these other people are seeing. I mean, just some interesting things here potentially. Like the whole idea, like, hey, they have to get this couple, and then they do sort of like a ritualistic, you know, not sort of like emotional torture type thing, but they even screwed that up, and I don't know, it just left very little impact on me. I did enjoy this whatsoever, and the length, almost a 2-hour movie, made it so much worse. So I'm giving this one a 4 out of 10.
Great minds think alike. Yeah, I'm giving this one a 4 as well. The first half was boring as fuck, and you know the second half picked up. But at that point, you didn't care so much. But yeah, no, it's a movie that kind of looks good, but yeah, it's just written by, I don't know, some pretentious assholes, I guess. I mean, they had the right idea by getting some titties out, but they even managed to botch that. And shame on them.